Hallo liebe Subscriber, hello dear subscribers, and welcome to this special monthly long video about a topic that you requested. And today's video is about irregular verbs in the present tense. Here you can see presens. Presens means present tense. And also unregelmäßig means irregular verbs. And how to conjugate them. Unregelmäßige Verben konjugieren. Here is just a translation. Regelmäßig means regular and unregelmäßig means irregular. Okay, let's get started. So, viele, aber nicht alle, Verben verändern sich nur in der zweiten und dritten Person Singular. This sentence means that many, but not all, irregular verbs are changing only in the second and third person singular. What I mean by that, we will figure out in a second. So basically, there is a pattern how verbs in the present tense are conjugated. And that pattern are the endings. So these are the endings of the verb, right? Depending on the personal pronouns, which are these. And they change. For irregular verbs, the endings are the same, but in the second and third person singular, so du and er, sie, es, so you and he, she, it, we have a stem vowel change. Now, what is a stem vowel? Let's look at a verb. For example, the verb schlafen. Schlafen means to sleep. The stem of the verb schlafen is schlaf. So basically you just take away the en at the end and then you have the stem vowel. This works with almost all verbs in German. Not with all, because some have different endings than en, but most verbs in German have the ending en, and when you take away en, then you have the stem of the verb. And stem vowel, the stem vowel in this case would be a. It's the only vowel in the stem, right? Ah. And if you have a stem vowel change, it means that this vowel changes into another vowel. And there are different types of verbs who have different stem vowel changes. I know this sounds confusing, but we'll go through it in a second. All in an order so it's not as overwhelming. And we will start with the verbs with a stem vowels. So something like schlafen or fahren, tragen, halten. All of these are verbs with the stem vowel a in German, right? And all of these verbs and a number of more verbs with a have a stem vowel change to ä. So a mit Umlaut. The a with the Umlaut. Okay, but as I said before, only in the second and third person singular. So let's go through schlafen. Ich schlafe stays the same as regular verbs. And then du and er, sie, es have the stem vowel changes from a to ä. So du schläfst, er, sie, es schläft. And then the rest, all the plural personal pronouns have the same conjugations as regular verbs. So schlafen, ihr schlaft, und sie schlafen. Perfect. Now let's use this exact same structure with the next verb, fahren. Fahren means to drive. Okay, so ich stays the same. Ich fahre. And now the second and third person singular, we have the stem vowel change. So it will be du fährst. The rest stays the same. We just basically switch the letter A with the letter A with the umlaut, so ä. And then er, sie, es fährt. Perfect. And then the rest, the plural personal pronouns, stays the same. So wir fahren, ihr fahrt, und sie fahren. I hope you can read my handwriting. Now let's move on to the next verb, which is tragen. Tragen means to carry. Okay, ich trage. Du trägst. sie es trägt. Wir, back to normal, tragen. Ihr tragt. Und sie tragen. Perfect. And the last verb on this list is halten. Halten means to hold. Here I'm only going to do the second and third person singular, so it would be du hältst. Sie es hält. Perfect. Sorry, this is an hält. And the rest is all normal, like before. Okay, now let's move on to verbs with the stem vowel change from E to E. Also, only in the second and third person singular. Verbs that have this type of stem vowel changes are, for example, helfen, to help, geben, to give, nehmen, to take, essen, to eat, and then there's a couple of other like that. Let's start with helfen. Helfen means to help. Ich helfe stays normal, and then du hilfst. Here, hilfst, und sie es hilft. So the E turns to the I. And then wir helfen, ihr helft, und sie helfen stays the same. Now, geben. Geben, do you know what geben means? Geben means to give. Okay, ich gebe stays the same. Du gibst. Perfect. Sie es gibt. Wir geben. Ihr gebt. Und sie geben. Perfect. Oh, sorry, I should have written this one in red. I'm just going to underline it in red so you know that this one is also the stem vowel change conjugations there. Okay, let's move on to the next verb, which is nehmen. Nehmen means to take. To take. I already did the conjugations for these two because they are a little bit special. Here you have a complete stem change, not just a stem vowel change from E to I, but a complete stem change. So it's not du nimmst like the verb stem. It changes completely. So it is this one is an exception, just as essen is as well. Okay, excuse me. So here it is, ich nehme, and then du nimmst. Sie es nimmt. So you just have to remember that. Unfortunately, there's no regulation. It's just the way it is. And then wir nehmen, ihr nehmt, und sie nehmen. Perfect. Nehmen and nehmt. Perfect. And then lastly, the verb essen means to eat. Here we also have a slight change, slight specialty. So ich esse, and then du isst. Usually, we add an st at the end of the verb stem. The verb stem of essen would be ess, right? S. So it would be a triple S here, ist. But because that's not possible, we just shorten it and it becomes du isst with two S. There is actually, in fact, one word in German, I think it's just one word in German that has a triple S, and that is das Fitnessstudio. Do you know what that means? Fitness studio is the gym where you go to work out. Here we have a triple S, but only because it's basically a conjunction of two separate nouns. In German, that is possible with a lot of nouns. You can just put them together and they become a noun. Okay, let's finish the conjugation of essen. Wir essen, it stays normal. Ihr esst und sie essen. Perfect. Good job. Well done. Now let's move on. We have two other types of stem vowel changes in irregular verbs. The first one is Verben that have a stem vowel change from E to E. The long I, as we say in German, because when you have an I following an E, no, sorry, that was wrong. When you have an I and then an E directly after the letter I in German, we pronounce it as a long E. Long E sound. But again, in German, everything has exceptions, so also this has some exceptions where you pronounce it differently. Okay, verbs that have these type of stem vowel changes are sehen, lesen, empfehlen, and a couple of others. Sehen means to see. And here we conjugate it like this. Ich sehe, du siehst. Er, sie, es sieht. Wir sehen, ihr seht und sie sehen. Perfect. Let's do the same with lesen. Lesen. Ich lese. Perfect. Then du, now we have the stem vowel change. Du liest. Perfect. Er, sie, es liest. And wir lesen, ihr lest und sie. Sorry, wrong color. Let me do this again. Because this one stays normal. So, wir lesen, ihr lest und sie lesen. Perfect. Now let's move on to the last verb, which is empfehlen. And empfehlen means to recommend. Oh, and lesen means to read, by the way. Okay, so ich empfehle. Now we have the stem vowel change. Du empfiehlst. Und er empfiehlt. And then the rest is normal or usual. Wir empfehlen. And so on. Has the same structure as regular verbs, the rest. Okay, now let's move on to the last type of verbs with stem vowel changes, and those are verbs with au, and they turn into oi. So basically, the letter A followed by the letter U changes into the letter E, so A with umlaut, followed by the letter U. Okay, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but this letter is called E, but when you when this letter is followed by a U, it's pronounced as oi. And also, the letter E followed by the letter U is pronounced as oi. Kind of funny, huh? Oi. So they have the same sound. Okay, so let's look at the verbs. There are actually only two verbs who have these stem vowel changes, and those are laufen and saufen. Laufen means to walk or to run, kind of, or to jog. There are also other verbs for this, but we use it a lot in German. And saufen means to drink a lot, and it's usually alcohol. So when you want to go out and drink with your friends, you say, oh, wir gehen saufen. We're going to drink a lot of alcohol. Saufen. Okay, now let's look at the conjugations of the verb laufen here. Ich laufe. Du läufst. Er, sie, es läuft. Wir laufen, ihr lauft, sie laufen. The rest stays normal. Now let's look at the conjugations of saufen. Ich saufe. Du säufst. sie es säuft. Perfect. And the rest stays as before. Wir saufen, ihr sauft, und sie saufen. Perfect. Now we have covered all the different types of irregular verbs with stem vowel changes. Now, there are actually also verbs with completely different conjugations, unfortunately. Hier, Verben mit komplett anderen Konjugationen. Those basically mean that they do not follow the regular verb endings that we usually have here. And examples for this type of irregular verbs are sein, haben, können, wollen, müssen. Okay, let's start with sein. How sein is conjugated is ich bin, du bist, sie es ist, wir sind, ihr seid, und sie sind. So, as you can see, very different endings here as the usual endings for regular verbs in the present tense. And also it's completely different than the verb stem. So there's no sein here, except here. Okay, now sein also means, sein means to be, just in case you didn't know. And haben means to have. Now let's conjugate haben. Maybe you already know this, but haben is also irregular because the verb stem is hab, but the verb stem is not regularly used here. So it is ich habe, du hast, sie es hat, wir haben, ihr habt, und sie haben. Okay, now können. Können means to can or be able to. And können is conjugated like this. Ich kann, du kannst, sie es kann, wir können, ihr könnt, und sie können. I just realized I didn't write this in red. Sorry. Imagine this, I wrote it in red. And then also wollen. Wollen means to want. Okay, let's conjugate wollen. Oh, as you can see here, können, to be able to, is very different here. First of all, we have a stem vowel change, and also the endings are not as regular endings here. Kann and kann is the same, and there's no T here. That's why it is considered an irregular verb. And also, wollen has also the same kind of structure. So it is ich will, du willst, sie es will, wir wollen, ihr wollt, und sie wollen. Okay, perfect. I hope you understood everything until now. I will send you this document with my notes and without the notes so that you can practice or go over it again. And if you have any questions, please let me know. To sum up, I want to tell you that irregular German verbs in the present tense deviate from regular conjugation patterns, typically displaying unique stem changes or entirely irregular forms, requiring memorization for correct conjugation. So basically, what I can tell you how to learn all of these irregular verbs and how to conjugate them is just learn them by heart, memorize it, or how I like to say is don't just blindly memorize them, but try and get a feeling for them, you know? Just like you learned your mother language, you also just have a feeling for what's right, how you have to conjugate verbs or the sentence structure. It just feels right to you naturally. And if you want to learn German properly and speak it fluently, I think that's the best way to go. And how you go about that is by practicing, listening a lot, speaking a lot, and just try and go over it and use it a lot, I believe. Okay, thank you so much. I hope this lesson was useful to you. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, like I said, please pop me a DM or like a comment under this, or reach out to me. I am always available and try to get back to you as soon as possible. And thank you for being a subscriber. I will do my best to help you out as much as I can and make you satisfied with my content. And yes, I hope you have a wonderful day. Und bis bald. See you soon. Tschüss.